Hey, this is Mark, and we're going to get right back into the awesome paper we were working on last time. We managed to create an abstract and organize our paper using sections, subsections, and even subsections. Now, what I didn't show you is located here in the left window where the file outline is located. And what this allows us to do is navigate throughout our source code based on the structure of our document. In addition to that, I can select a line of code and then use this arrow here between the two panes, and it will navigate me to that place in the preview document. And it even works the other way. So if I find, for example, this equation and I want to navigate to that piece of code in my source, I just double click and I'm there. So really nice for navigation. But this video is not about navigation, it is about images. So let's get started by use package command. And the package we're going to be using is called graphic X with an X, not an S. And this is going to enable us to include images in our document. So I'm going to create a folder where I am going to store the assets of my document. And within this folder called assets, I'm going to create a new folder where I'm going to call this TeX images. So this is where I'm going to include images of a certain type. For this video, we're just going to upload an image to this folder. So I'm going to click upload, and I'm just going to select an image from my computer here, and it's now uploaded. So now you can see that my image is in our project, and we can now try to insert that into our document. All right, let's try to find a place for our image. This looks about right. So to include an image in our document, we are going to use the command include graphics. Now that is graphics with an S, and this command has an argument, which is the file path relative to the main.tex file where our image is located. So for us, that is going to be .assets/teximage/00bg. Notice I do not need to include that file extension. And when I compile, the image is now in our document. It is that easy. Now there are some options we can pass to the include graphics command. And the first one that I want to take a look at is the scale option. So we are now going to scale the image. So I'm going to set scale equal to, and I want to make it smaller. So I'm going to use 0.75. So that should make our image smaller. And when we compile, we can see that our image is, well, a little smaller. Now I'm just going to I just need to readjust the window here a little bit because now I am going to just make the image a bit smaller. So I'm going to scale to 0.75, but this time I'm also going to rotate it by an angle of 45 degrees. So now when we compile, we can see that our image has been rotated. So there is another option for you. Now, if you don't want to scale the image, you can set the width of the image manually. And one that I use often is text width. So what this will do is assign the width of the image the same as the text width, and the height will automatically be adjusted to maintain the aspect ratio of the image. Now I can also scale that text width as well. Now that image is not centered right now, and I can fix that easily by placing it inside a center environment. Now there are a couple other options that I want to show you here, and one of them is to set the width to a specified dimension such as 7 centimeters. And what this will do is it will adjust the width to 7 centimeters, and again the height is automatically adjusted to preserve the aspect ratio of the image. Now if you want, you can also specify the height of the image like I've done here, but the aspect ratio is no longer preserved. So let's just change this back to the text width of the document. Now we are going to look at another environment where we can place our image, and this environment is called the figure environment. And this will allow us to provide our image with a caption and a label. Now watch what happens when I run this. The image is not where I expect it relative to the source code. In fact, it's right at the top of the page. Now, the figure environment has some options, and what I can do is specify H as an option. And what that will do is it will place the image here, which means the image is where I expect it to be relative to its placement in the source code. Now, if I wanted it to be placed at the top of the page, I could provide it with the option T, and if I wanted the figure at the bottom of the page, I could provide it the option B. Now I'm just going to place the option to H, so the image is where I would expect it relative to our source code. Now, one of the attributes of this image or figure is the caption, and since this image has something to do with the distributive law, I'm just going to use some inline math here to write this identity. So K times B plus C is equal to the product KB plus the product KC. And now when I compile this, I can see that my image, which is now inside the figure environment, has a caption. In addition to the caption command, we have the label command, which allows me to label my figure. In this case, I'm going to label it as a figure and call it distributive. Now, what this is going to allow me to do is reference this figure at any point in my document. So let's take this position here, and I can use the command ref for reference, and I'm going to reference a figure label, which is called distributive. So now when I run the code, well, not so interesting. Let's just zoom in here. You'll see that it printed a 1 for figure 1. Now, it might be a little bit more helpful here to write something such as C figure, and that'll be 1. And then when I compile the code here, we can see here that says C figure 1. Now, we can also have it reference the page that the figure is located on. So to do that, I am going to just append on then the command page ref, and then I'm going to provide it with the same label name, so fig and distributive. So now when I compile, it now says C figure 1 on page 2. Super useful when you're working on large complex documents. Okay, now it's time for yet another image. So we're going to use the command include graphics and provide it with the argument of the file path and file name. But that is just a lot of work each time. For every image we want to insert, we got to include the path. I mean, it would just be so much easier if we could just provide the file name. Now, we could just include all our files in the same directory as the main.tex file, but that isn't well organized. So let me just go ahead and comment out this include graphics command, and then we'll run the code, and we just want to see that it doesn't work. In fact, if we go to the error logs, it says, yeah, we can't find this file, and that makes sense. We haven't provided a path to where the image is located. But there is a solution. We just need to go back to the preamble and include one command. So let's get up here, and after the use package graphic X, we are now going to make use of graphics path. Now this has an argument which in itself is in these curly braces, and here we are going to specify the path to where our images are located relative to the main.tex file. Now, the curly braces are within the curly braces because you can specify more than one image path. In fact, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment. So we can see now that we were able to compile our document and view our image by just specifying the file name. Now, I'm going to now include another directory in our assets folder. And this one I've called Python image, and now we can upload yet another image. And I'm just going to grab an image from my computer here, and then we are going to upload this. And let's just make sure that the file is there. Yes, it is. So now we can go ahead and include this second path where the compiler should look for images. So now we have two paths that the compiler is going to check where images are stored. We have our TXE image folder and our Python image folder, both within the assets folder. All right, let's get back into our document so we can include this second image. I'm going to uncomment this include graphics. Ooh, that should be include graphics. Let me fix that. And now we only have to provide the file name of 00DJ. And when we compile, And when we take a look here, make that a bit bigger, we see that that's looking big. Our image is now included in the document. So I'm going to place this image in a figure environment, just like we did the previous one. And I'm going to place it here relative to the source code. And I'm going to assign it a width of 0.5, the text width. So what this is going to do now is going to make that a lot smaller. Now I want to center it. So I'm now going to provide the centering command within the figure environment. So everything within the figure environment will now be centered. And now let's go ahead and include a caption to this. And I don't know, maybe we call this different types of propositions. And just like the other figure, we are going to provide it a label. This one is going to be fig because it is a figure label, and I'm going to call this one proposition. And when I compile, you'll see that the image, which is now inside a figure environment, has a caption and it has been labeled. Now, what I want to do is get down to the bottom of my document, and this is the last thing I'm going to show you. It is how to create a list of figures, and we can do this using the list of figures command. So now when I compile my code, I get a list of figures and the page number that they're located on. So there you have it, working a little bit with images and graphics using LaTeX.